Hi, my name is Travis Lindsay. I am here as a representative for the Center for Entrepreneurship at Cal State Fullerton. And today I have the honor of interviewing Justin Sanders. Justin, can you tell the people a little bit about yourself and how you're connected with us here at Cal State Fullerton?
So I am an intellectual property attorney and registered patent attorney. I have a small firm called Master Key IP. We work primarily with startups and small businesses, helping them identify what intellectual property they have, help them monetize it, and also protect it as cost effectively as possible. So filing patent and trademark applications, copyright applications, helping them with related agreements, things like that. But then we also do a lot of outreach and just educational efforts. I work with Cal State Fullerton Startup Incubator as an advisor. I work with SCORE, which is a local entrepreneur organization. It gives a lot of free resources to small businesses, just several other organizations. I'm on the board of Tech Coast Venture Network, which is another great local entrepreneur organization that has two meetings every month, one virtual, one in person. I've been working with the Cal State Fullerton Startup Incubator for a few years now. Met JJ, I can't remember through which connection, and then just have stayed in contact with him and you, Travis, and just happy to be a resource. Working with small businesses and startups, there's a lot of education that goes into the whole process, where a lot of clients that come to me, they have no idea like the difference between a patent or a trademark, and a lot of just misconceptions. And so just it's fun to provide like the foundational knowledge to these businesses, so that they know when to ask the right questions and when to come to me, so that they don't miss any opportunities on protecting their stuff. Because especially with patents, it's time sensitive. So just having that foundational knowledge helps them not miss anything. Because especially with startups and small businesses, in particular, like day one or at that early stage, most of the value, if not all the value, is in the intellectual property, especially if they're like pre-revenue, they haven't launched yet. The value that they have in their business is usually tied up in their trademarks and their patents, or at least pending patent applications and things like that. So properly protecting those things can go a long way in better ensuring the success of that business.
Yeah, and I think you undersold yourself a little bit. I mean, you're a tremendous asset to the incubator, to everything we do at the center. I know that you also have in the past given guest lectures in JJ's class. I don't
Yeah.
remember. I don't think, or maybe you did once in one of my classes.
I'm
Uh,
not sure. I know I've done
yeah,
for JJ a few times, and one or two other professors, but
right.
yeah.
But for
Hmm.
anybody who's watching this, we do have some of your previous talks at the incubator, and there you go into great depth about all the different aspects of patent law and what entrepreneurs should be aware of. And I think I think the great value in that for anybody who's a new entrepreneur is that it gives them more a clear-eyed view of what the lay of the land is. It's not that it gives them everything that they need to do to do your job, because that's extremely technical and there's a lot of nuance there. And that's one of that's one of the main things I want to talk with you about today, is that here you are, you're a professional, you've spent years honing your craft, and there's a lot of people in our community who are similarly, they're professionals, whether it's in marketing or in operations or HR or the law or engineering, and they've always worked for another company. I forgive me, but I forget your specific background, but can you give us some insight into your journey about from where you started to how you got to here today with your with Master Key IP, your own firm?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm definitely not one of those type A personalities that like grew up dreaming of being a lawyer or anything like that. It's that law was never in my long-term plan. I went to school for and have a degree in computer science. So I went to Long Beach State, and I was there in early 2000s. So about halfway through my undergrad, when I had plans of being a software developer and all that, is when the dot-com bubble burst. And so it's like all the jobs went away except for like the big like Microsoft type jobs, or at Long Beach State, Boeing is a big collaborator with the school and providing internships and whatnot. But unless you wanted to work for a defense company, or if you could get a job with Microsoft, I mean, just it was hard to find work in the software engineering field at that point in time. And so again, that was about halfway through my undergrad. So then you're sitting there scrambling, trying to figure out what you're going to do. I was talking to some classmates, and one of them had a friend that was also a computer science major, had graduated recently at that point, and had gotten into law school. And it helped get them into law school because they had a degree in computer science, because most law school students have like political science or history or English backgrounds. I mean, that's what they major in undergrad. And so coming in with a diverse background, a different type of degree and experience, just kind of helped increase your chances of getting into law school. And so with that in mind, I started looking into that option. And that's when I first discovered the whole field of intellectual property, and specifically with patents. In order to practice in this field, in order to prepare and file and prosecute patent applications before the United States Patent and Trademark Office, you have to have a technical background. You have to have a science or engineering degree, or enough experience in that in one of those fields in order to practice in this area. And so there's a whole separate exam you have to take. So like to become a licensed attorney, you have to take a bar exam with a particular state, or multiple states if you want to practice in multiple states. But in order to practice before the patent office, there's a separate test called the patent bar. And so again, in order to even sit for that, you have to have that engineering background. And so with that in mind, I figured, okay, well, that's potential more job security there. Again, when it was hard to find work, here's an avenue where I could actually find a job potentially. And so that's when I started going down that path. And so I got closer to finishing my computer science degree. And I think like in my last year at Long Beach State, I started studying for the LSAT, which is a test you have to take in order to apply to law school. And so I did that, graduated with my computer science degree, and then went to law school. And I went to Whittier Law School here locally. It's actually, it was in Costa Mesa. They closed it a couple years ago, unfortunately.
Yeah,
It was a great
the
school.
poets.
Yeah. And so the main campus obviously is in Whittier, but their satellite law school campus was in Costa Mesa.
Oh, okay.
And back then, so I mean, this is around like 2004, 2005. And looking at different law schools, I mean, Whittier was one of the few at that time to have like a full fleshed out intellectual property like certificate program. So like even the big schools like UCLA at the time, they had like one course that they called intellectual property, but Whittier had a course on patents, one on trademarks, one on copyrights. And so it was this really robust program. And so that's what drew me to Whittier. And so I went there again with the plan of being that I was going to focus on intellectual property, come out being a patent attorney. Like no other areas of law really interest me, like corporate, tax law, family law. It's just no thanks. But it's just because intellectual property law, it's a more positive area where you're working with people with new ideas, with innovative things that they want to take to market. And so it's just a more positive area where you're helping to protect those ideas. I don't handle litigation, so I'm not dealing with the slimy aspects sometimes that come along with litigation. I do anything and everything but that. And so it's a positive area. And so that's what I went to law school for. Yeah, so having that technical background though, after my first year in law school, I sat for that patent bar exam, because technically you can become what's called a patent agent without actually going to law school and passing a state bar exam. And so the difference being is that both patent agents and patent attorneys can file and prosecute patent applications, but patent agents can't do anything else. So like any kind of contract work, trademark stuff, anything else that would be considered legal services, a patent agent technically can't provide. But so I became a patent agent after my first year in law school and started working as a patent agent. So while most of my classmates were taking unpaid externships, I was able to actually get paid while still in law school. And through that, I started working with a small firm locally. It was just one patent agent. He brought me on, thankfully, and kind of showed me the ropes and everything. Because it's one thing, like with any exam, it's one thing to know enough to pass an exam. It's a completely different thing to actually have the practical experience to put those concepts into practice. And so he taught me how to prepare and file patent applications and everything. And then through that relationship, I met another attorney. And thankfully, through that relationship, I was able to get my first job out of law school, because I graduated law school and passed the bar in 2008, which is when the Great Recession hit. So I went from the dot-com bubble bursting to now the Great Recession. And so even then in the law field, finding work was difficult. I mean, even like students at USC were getting job offers pulled at that point because the big firms were losing clients, and they couldn't afford to hire on anybody new. But again, having this kind of niche experience of being a patent agent and then a patent attorney helped get me that job. But I mean, really, it was just who I knew. And thankfully, I knew the right attorney who just at that time so happened to be looking to expand his practice. And so he brought me on. And then he and I eventually became partners for a few years. And then we ended up merging our practice with another small firm in like 2014. And then he ended up moving to Tennessee and kind of started his own thing again out in Tennessee. And then I stayed with that firm we merged with. And then fast forward to 2022, I was at the point where I was looking to go off on my own, just for a number of reasons. And he was looking to partner up with someone at that point in time as well. So it just the stars aligned, and we ended up becoming partners again now within this new endeavor, Master Key IP. But so yeah, so my whole career has been, which is like 16 plus years now, I guess, has been in the small firm kind of context. Big firm life never really appealed to me. You can make more money, but then you end up spending more hours in the office, and this gives me a nice work-life balance. I'm able to work directly with clients rather than through some other attorney or associate, and just working primarily with small businesses. And like I said, helping provide that education to my clients and helping them grow their businesses.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to drill down on a couple of those things that you
Yeah.
were talking about. So passion is one of them. I mean, you obviously have a passion for innovation. You were talking about how you didn't like certain parts of law, which, kind of deal with humanity when it's not at its highest. It's kind of,
Yeah.
it deals with humanity when it's been kicked down a little bit. So there's that part of it. So passion, you're working with people who are innovators, who are building stuff up,
Yeah.
who are creating, stuff that you're going to use in the future. And then also, I don't know, maybe you agree with me or maybe you don't, but I think that specialization probably is something that has helped you a little bit. So you're not going out and doing the litigation, you're not going and making arguments in front of the judge, but you're focusing specifically on a certain part of the patent process. Or am I reading too much into that?
No, and that's true. And I mean, the reality is, like, even most attorneys usually have to pick one or the other. Like, you're either going to be what's
Right.
called a prosecutor, kind of on the transactional side, preparing and filing the applications, or you're going to be a litigator where you're suing people over these patents as far as like a patent infringement claim. Because oftentimes, if you're the one drafting the application, you can't represent that client in litigation because you could be called as a witness in determining like the scope of the claims and everything in that patent. And so courts frown upon the attorney also being a witness in the case. And so
Gotcha.
usually, like, especially even like at the big firms, you're either like on the prosecution side or the litigation side. Now, I mean, there are some attorneys that'll do both, just not on the same case. But I mean, I've done a little bit of litigation. It's just, I mean, for one, it requires a lot more uh, manpower, we'll call it, as far as like having a staff of assistants or paralegals to just put all the documents together and everything. And it's just, I like having this small practice and not having to deal with all those headaches. And like I said, it's a more positive area as far as like litigation tends to just be a lot of posturing, in my opinion, a lot of just time and money wasted, both sides going back and forth over silly issues. But yeah, so it's just prosecution's more my speed. You don't have deadlines that hit where suddenly now I have to file something by tomorrow. Like with patent and trademark applications, you have like 3 to 6 months to submit a response to things, and gives you time to work with the clients and schedule things out. So I'm not typically not having to do like overnighters or anything like that. And again, that just goes back to having that work-life balance. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I know people who are partners at, large law firms, and I mean, they're working 70, 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
And they've been doing that for a half a century.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and I mean that's for like some people enjoy the fast paced of it all,
100%.
yeah, and just the adversarial aspects, and being in court, and the money. But again, I mean, if you could be making a 7-figure salary, but if you're spending 80 plus hours in the office, like when are you ever outside to enjoy that money you're making?
But
So
you're right,
it's,
though. I mean, that the
yeah,
point for them, that the enjoyment isn't getting to spend the money, it's all the stuff that they have to do to make the money. It's that
yeah.
adversarial nature, sort of like a competition.
Yeah, yeah. So there's room in the food chain for all of us, I like to say. And yeah, there's plenty of people that enjoy the litigation stuff. So
100%. So, in your entrepreneurial journey, I mean, what were a couple of like the highlights for you? Stuff where when you did it, you thought, okay, this is exactly what I want to be doing. And then what were some of like the roadblocks that you encountered? Just a couple of them.
yeah, I mean, the highlight is just like I said, about 2 years ago is when I decided to hang my own shingle, or I mean, technically with my partner, but we each kind of have our own books of business, and we just we share the overhead, and we're there as backstops for each other. If one of us is out of pocket for some reason, the other is there to make sure that no deadlines fall through the cracks. But other than that, we each just kind of have our own kind of separate practices within this master key IP firm. But just being able to kind of carve out that practice that I've established, that I've grown over the past 16 years. I've had clients, I mean, I do have some clients still from that long ago that have just stayed with me. And I mean, at this point, it's just we have a website. I obviously do presentations and stuff. I mean, more so just like I said, because I enjoy the teaching aspect, but it's also getting my name out there. But I mean, by and large, most of my clients come in through word of mouth from existing clients, trusted referrals, which are amazing, and just clients coming back for new projects. So I mean, just to be at the point where I have a self-sustaining practice. I'm not having to spend money on marketing or SEO or anything like that. I mean, that's definitely a highlight. And I mean, it was, I guess I'm trying to think roadblocks. I mean, I've been really fortunate over my career where, I mean, I haven't really run into a lot of issues. Though, I mean, transitioning, kind of keeping up with the times, as far as like when I first started, we had like paper folders and large lateral file cabinets, and like having to make that transition to being completely paperless. And then going from, I mean, in addition to that, going to primarily like a virtual practice. Like I work out of a home office now, and I've been doing that since about 2014. I like to say since before it was cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was definitely, and I mean, part of that was just the realization back then that, I mean, we were spending like, I don't know, like $2,000 to $3,000 a month for office space in Irvine, but our practice is federal. So like I've got clients not just in California, but in a bunch of other states. I've got clients in other countries. And even the clients in California, oftentimes they were too busy to ever want to meet in person anyway. So like we were sitting with this physical office that wasn't really getting used for meetings or anything. And so we made that transition to be virtual in 2014. And I mean, some of the clients did kind of uh, were taken aback a little bit, because at that time it wasn't really what was being done. And so, but once they realized that, I mean, overhead means costs that are being passed along to the client in some form or fashion. So, I mean, the lower our overhead, the more competitive we can keep our costs. Most of our clients understood that, and they were fine with it. But then fast forward to 2020, when everyone was forced to go virtual, and then Zoom became popular, and everyone knows how to use Zoom, and now people just prefer to meet virtually anyway. I mean, all the tools that are now available, it's made it a lot easier. But those first few years were a little bit tricky, where I mean, we didn't have a lot of, I think there was like Skype, there wasn't Zoom or anything like that. So I was meeting with clients in person, or you guys were kind enough to let me use office space at the incubator to meet clients when they wanted to meet in person, or just meeting at a coffee shop. So I mean, there was a little more of that, and I still do that to some extent whenever clients want to meet in person. But by and large, most just prefer to do Zoom and phone conferences at this point. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking through roadblocks. I mean, those are probably the two main ones. But again, it's just, it can be difficult to get those clients, and you have to, I mean, I know some attorneys that are constantly putting out like blog posts or videos, and using social media to just kind of keep themselves top of mind, or try to reach a larger audience. I mean, there's having a Yelp page and getting Yelp reviews and stuff, because I mean, a lot of people use Yelp for everything, even trying to find an attorney. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I've always tried to stay engaged with the community, and just provide quality services to my clients at reasonable flat fee rates, and just like I said, through those years of efforts, I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of trusted referrals come my way, and clients come back for new services.
Yeah, so when you were telling me your story, and again, and I think this is going to be most relevant for people who want to go down that professional path, who may be, considering down the road starting up their own professional practice, or maybe they are, considering it right now. One of the things that stood out to me about your story was that you, and we don't have to rehash this, but you went to work for somebody that really showed you the ropes, both probably on the legal side and then on the business side as well.
Yeah.
And over the years, you guys have stayed in touch, become partners, and law firms are partners right now.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're probably sharing some back office services.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Yeah.
and so having that guide is something that's really important. And over at the incubator, as you know, I mean, we have mentors and stuff who serve that role. But I mean, if you could find somebody and actually work for them, that will show you the ropes and help you grow that way. I mean, that's the best way to do it.
Oh,
I
for
mean,
sure. Yeah.
and that's kind of been your mindset the whole way. I mean, even in when you were going to school over with your college, I mean, you became a patent agent and were making money on your own while everybody else was trying to get internships at the local law firms during a
Yeah.
recession.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, like I said, I was super, and that's why, one of the reasons why I like giving back when I can, because I mean, people took time out of their day to train me when I needed it. And so I try to do the same whenever I can, because I mean, especially in this area, in the legal field, I mean, you go to law school, particularly like at the top tier law schools, I mean, they're teaching you kind of the general philosophical principles of law, but they're not really giving you the practical experience. And so, I mean, Whittier, thankfully, was more of a practical law school as far as the experience that they gave us. They taught us the law, but also how to apply it in like a regular practice scenario. And but I mean, still on the patent stuff, again, like to pass the patent bar, you have to know the general rules, but they don't really teach you, or they don't require you to know how to prepare and file and prosecute a patent application as part of that patent bar exam. And so that was a practical experience that I was given by those first employers I had. And yeah, if you're able to find a mentor in your field, that's amazing. And I mean, even if you get a job at a larger firm, I mean, they're going to teach you what to do, and they're going to give you that practical experience. But and then it's just a matter of, like, if you're thinking about going off on your own, I mean, after you've gained enough experience, and I mean, you're working hopefully directly with clients. And the nice thing about the legal field is, I mean, it's the client's choice. It's always the client's choice who they want to have as their attorney. And so, I mean, you can't scrape your law firm's Rolodex and send out an email blast if you leave your firm. But I mean, you're legally allowed to tell your clients that, like, hey, I'm no longer working here. And if the clients end up wanting to follow you, I mean, that's totally up to them. And so that's where I was fortunate as well. As, I mean, I've been working directly with all of my clients over the years through the different firms I've been with. And so I think every single one of them, when I made this jump to have my own practice, they came along with me. But again, that just goes back to always providing the best service you can, and providing good customer service, quality work product, at reasonable prices. It's just, that's worked for me to retain all these clients, and again, get all these trusted referrals here from them.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, from everything that you've told me and everything that previous conversations we've had, I mean, it's been a pretty methodical process. My guess is that's probably how your brain works. I mean, an engineer, you went to engineering school, then a lawyer, so there's a process to it, and you followed it, and done well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a little bit though. I mean, it wasn't like super calculated. I mean, I guess it's just like, I just always pride myself on kind of doing the best work I can. And I mean, I'm not like trying to get like rich off of, I mean, like I live a comfortable, kind of reasonable lifestyle. Like, I don't drive a Mercedes or anything. I just got a Toyota Matrix. And I mean, it's just, I make enough to live comfortably, and so, like, I just try to be reasonable in the flat fees that I charge my clients. Like, I don't bill for phone calls and emails and stuff, which a lot of attorneys do. So I try to be the attorney in a lot of respects. Like, I don't bill for phone calls and emails. I don't bill hourly. I actually respond to phone calls and emails like within the same day or next business day. And so, like, all the pain points that clients have mentioned to me, like, over the years in dealing with other attorneys, I've just tried to provide solutions to those. And so, I mean, it's really just kind of naturally grown into what it is today. Not necessarily that I was planning on using all those things to get to this point, even like being an advisor at the Startup Incubator. Again, that just kind of grew out of me wanting to give back and be a resource. But yeah, I mean, through that, yeah, I get more clients now from time to time through those connections. But yeah, so I mean, it's the success has just kind of been a byproduct, I guess you could say, of me just, again, wanting to be a resource, wanting to provide quality work at reasonable prices, and again, working with small businesses and startups. Like, I never want price to be a barrier to entry for a lot of this stuff. And so, like, a lot of firms will say, okay, this is what we charge for a patent application, like, take it or leave it, even if it's a flat fee. I mean, if it's too much, then, I mean, a company's not going to be able to do that. But like with smaller companies, I try to work within their budget. So, like, if all they can afford is like more of like a quick and dirty provisional application, well, so be it. And we'll put together whatever we can within their budget to at least give them something. And so yeah, it's just all about being reasonable in what I bill for my services, but also giving back whenever I can, and just providing that high quality work product. And yeah, the success just kind of follows.
Yeah, I mean, speaking for myself, I know at the incubator, whenever we have a question about patents or really anything business law related, you're obviously the first person we think about, and we've sent you a ton of people over the years, and you've always been gracious enough to sit down with them, either in person or virtually, and walk them through the process. And I mean, it's a tremendous service that you do, because again, most first-time entrepreneurs or inventors, they don't really understand the process. I mean, there's kind of like the TVI's version of it, where you get a patent and then all of a sudden, you've got a yacht.
Yeah.
It doesn't really usually work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great that you are there to provide us with that kind of insight. So not a ton of huge roadblocks, because I mean it's not like you reinvented the wheel, not to diminish what you've
No,
accomplished.
yeah, it's
But
true.
yeah, there's a right way and a wrong way to do what you do, and you've learned the right way of doing it, and you just built on that over years. It's methodical. It's something that you have to build up. It's not something that you come in on day one and then it's a supernova of growth. It's just
Right.
something you build over time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like I said, I mean, thankfully, I've been in positions where I've been able to like have clients given to me through other firms, or they help me like generate or bring in those clients, and it just kind of taught me different skills. But yeah, I mean, as attorneys, we're so fenced in like legally as far as like what we're allowed to do, like for like marketing purposes and everything else. Like for example, I can't tell a client, hey, I'll give you a 25% discount on your next bill if you send me a referral. Like I can't do stuff like that. That violates the rules of professional conduct that we have to abide by. And so yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's like there's this more or less a linear path that you have to take to be an attorney. But again, I mean, there's things you can do better, like what I think I've been doing as far as the pricing structure, and the responsiveness and everything else. Which I mean, you think it's kind of a no-brainer, but yeah, I can't tell you how many of clients I've gotten who have just been dissatisfied with the attorneys they were working with because of those types of pain points.
100%. So looking forward, I'm sure that this is going to be a question that is on the mind of a lot of viewers. AI, have you interacted with it yet? Do you use it at all in your practice? Do you have any thoughts about it at all? And I know we didn't really talk about this beforehand, so maybe
Yeah.
you don't. But I was just curious if you did.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't used it yet. I'm sure I will though eventually. I know there are some legal tools out there already that do, or at least help with like contract drafting or contract revising, things like that. I'm sure at some point there'll be, if there's not already, AI that'll help draft a patent application. And so, yeah, I mean, those things are for sure coming. But again, I mean, I view those just as tools rather than like competition per se, because you still, I mean, so much. I mean, and this goes for anything legal. I mean, there has to be, I mean, innovative and creative arguments to be made, that I don't think at least current versions of AI are capable of doing.
Right.
I mean, AI can go out there and scrape a bunch of data and come up with the most probabilistic response or document based on all that research. But I mean, there's just something extra there that goes into kind of strategizing and coming up with creative ways to write things, not just a black and white description of something, but something that's got a creative angle that's going to help give you a leg up, or your client get a leg up, or broaden out the scope of protection in a patent application. But I mean, certainly at some point, I know I'll be using some kind of AI tool to at least help me draft like the first draft of an application, and then I go in and polish it up. Which, I mean, if I get that kind of tool, obviously I would pass it back as a discount to the client. So I mean, it's kind of a win-win for everybody. I'm spending less time on something, the client's spending less money. I don't know if every firm's going to be that nice about it. I'm sure they'll just pocket the extra money they're saving. But but yeah, it's inevitable that AI will kind of find its way into the legal field, and yeah, they'll definitely uses, but it'll be tools more than an actual AI attorney representing you, which I don't think anyone would necessarily want either. I don't know if I'd want a robot representing my legal interests completely. I would want some kind of human oversight. But So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, so short answer, I don't use them yet, but I think it's just a matter of time before I do once something comes out that's both good enough and reasonably priced.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just speaking for myself, I mean, I've seen some startups that are working kind of in this area, in the automation area
Yeah.
specifically, but then also in AI, where they, ingest a bunch of different, cases and, purport to be able to develop better arguments that lawyers can use. I
Yeah.
don't think it's quite there yet. I
No,
think
it's not.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen
yeah.
some really creepy stuff. I saw one attorney post on LinkedIn that basically had like an AI avatar of himself, like talking like AI generated speech and everything, and it was super creepy. But I mean, obviously it's still kind of early stage for some of that stuff, and maybe it'll get better. I'm sure it will eventually, but yeah, so for sure it'll be integrated in some respect. We'll just have to wait and see
Right, yeah, and
how yeah.
I think your characterization of it as a tool is spot on. I mean, it's not like calculators made mathematicians obsolete, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so it's progress. I mean, it's something that's, right in your wheelhouse. It's progress. It's
Yeah.
innovation. So it's pretty much all innovations in the past, they've led to bigger and better things down the road eventually. Of course, there's some uh issues in the short term and the medium term, but over the long term, it usually works out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not sure if it'll happen this time because this is maybe something completely different, but who knows? So, all right. Is there anything else? Oh, well, here's the last question for me. I don't know if this is a good one or not, but fingers crossed. What advice would you give to a student who is thinking about going down this path? Maybe they like engineering, or they like science, or they like the law, what and they're thinking that, hey, maybe at some point in the future, maybe I want to go into business for myself. What advice would you give to that person? What advice would you give to yourself back a month before the dot-com bust?
Yeah, well, I mean, just going into business for yourself generally. I mean, as a student, I would say, yeah, go for it. Like, try to start as many businesses or try as many things as you can, because like when you're young, you have you're more flexible. You have kind of less responsibilities. Like when I started at my practice a couple years ago, I've got a wife, I've got a kid, I've got a mortgage. It's like there's a lot more at stake if the thing doesn't succeed. Whereas if you're still a student, I mean, yeah, that's the time to start a business and try something out. If it doesn't work, you learn from it, try something else. So yeah, if you're a student thinking about starting a business around an idea, I would say, yeah, go for it. Especially if you think that there's a need out there that your product or service would fill. Yeah, that's the time to try anything and everything. Now, I mean, if you're considering becoming an attorney, I always tell people, I mean, make sure it's something that you're passionate about. It's not easy money. Again, money can be made, but I know a lot of attorneys that hate their job, and I mean, the money's not worth it if you're not happy, and that's, I mean, bottom line. And like I even tell my own daughter this, like, do what makes you happy, whatever that is. I mean, it could be a minimum wage job, it could be some CEO position at some big company. I mean, if it makes you happy, that's the key. I mean, the money is nice, but I mean, bottom line is if you're not happy, it's not worth it. And so same thing like with being a lawyer. If you're passionate about the law, if you like reading and writing, because there's a lot of that involved, um, then go for it. But if you're just looking for like job security, like I don't even know if I necessarily had the right reasons back then for going into this profession. I mean, thankfully it's been a good fit. But like when I went to law school, I didn't even realize at the time until like day one of orientation that the California State Bar was a 3-day exam. So like I didn't really do a lot of extensive research into the field. It just seemed like at the time I was just looking for options, and this one seemed like a viable one. But again, coming out of law school, I was fortunate. A lot of my classmates weren't, And I know several that ended up having to work like minimum wage jobs for a couple years out after law school, trying to find that first job. And meanwhile, student loan debts are stacking up. And I mean, the average student loan debt, I think for law students is probably somewhere around $100,000 or $200,000. And so, and you might not get a job right out of the gate. And so it could be a job that you don't enjoy. Meanwhile, you've got a lot of student debt that you have to pay off. So if you're really passionate about this area, then yeah, go for it. But if you're not so sure, or you just think it's like an easy career path, and as far as trying to make a lot of money, probably not the best option for you. But yeah, I mean, again, bottom line, find what makes you happy, and that's I mean, that should be the driving factor. And if you enjoy it enough, and you're passionate, and you put your whole heart into it, the money usually is going to follow. But yeah, do what makes you happy.
Yeah, it's not like that S class is going to turn a cloudy day sunny, you know?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, I mean, that is great advice, and it may take, you know, somebody a very long time to figure out what actually makes them happy, but the way that you figure it out is by doing stuff. And so,
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
talking about getting started early, I mean, I think that is tremendous advice. It's, you know, something that's applicable across the board. So, I mean, like in your example, even though you were in law school, you were able to work in your field and start getting that experience, not just the money. You're also able to get that experience, the connections, you know, everything that you need to build up a successful practice. Or, you know, if you're the kind of person that wants to start some other kind of business, maybe a marketing business, you know, just go out and start getting clients and helping them with, you know, social media or stuff like that, and just
Yeah,
start
yeah,
building that.
yeah. Get the experience, and just get out there and meet people. I mean, the bigger your network is, the better chance of success you're going to have. I mean, that's kind of how it's worked for me, just knowing the right people at the right times as far as getting my jobs, and then getting clients. Again, it's just a matter of me being out there, meeting people, and then when a need arises, my name gets passed along to them. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's you have to know your stuff as well, but it's also who you know at the end of the day. So yeah, it's definitely get out there. So if you're in a particular industry, you're looking to get in a particular industry, like find a local organization that's kind of in that field, and attend their meetings and get involved, and just yeah, start meeting people.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that, pretty much. I mean, it's not simple, but it's as straightforward as that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
all
not
right.
rocket science.
No, it's not. No, but you know, hey, if you wanted to learn how to build rockets, the best way to do it is to start building rockets.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
so yeah, you learn the fundamentals, and then you go out and you start building smaller rockets, and then bigger rockets, and then someday you're on Mars.
There you go.
All right, Justin, thank you very much for doing this interview with us. I think that's all that
Yeah.
we have. I'll definitely put all your information and some links to your previous talks down in the description wherever this goes up. So thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and look forward to work with you guys further at the incubator.